Round one of the Eastern Conference playoffs is behind us. And if you were to look back and identify a couple of things that stood out, what's number one on your list?
The Miami Heat culture is no longer enough if they do not have enough people on the roster that are of star power that can help move them through when their main player cannot play. That's just what it is. I know that it worked. Heat culture got them through the grit and grind. They had different players on the team, and and Jimmy Butler was a main star, and you had Bam Bayo. Tyler Hero was in and out because then he hurt his wrist. If that's around the same timing. However, this season, I realized that if they don't get involved soon enough in the season, stop waiting till the end of the season to really get on board, and then an injury occurs, there was no leverage for them to really move forward through round one, right? I know they got through the playing turn. I get it. But at the end of the day, how much longer are we going to talk about heat culture? They can play with a little bit of nothing, and Eric Spoelstra still maintain his mastermind coaching skills. When is that going to change? Right? So
Mm-hmm.
although the heat culture, and we all love it, didn't get them this year. It didn't, unfortunately. And yes, Jimmy Butler being out is one of them. But if the roster was constructed such, they may have been able to at least round one, right?
Yeah, it's so funny. They're number one on my list as well. I think the
Really?
Heat need to move on from Jimmy Butler. There's a
I
couple of
don't
names
agree with
floating
that.
around:
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell, Trey Young,
Oh,
Paul George. I've heard Damian Lillard. I don't know how they would fit into Heat culture. However, Jimmy Butler is 34 years old, making
yes.
$45 million, plays half the season, if that,
Yep.
and has been
Hmm.
injured a lot. And I
Yep.
just think they have some young talent that they can build around. Bam Adebayo, Jaime Jaquez, Tyler Hero.
Yes.
Why not? You still want to have Terry Rozier. Why not
Yep.
build around them? Get
Yeah.
some of that salary off your books and bring in two
Hmm.
or three more complementary role players. And I think we can get the Miami Heat back to where they belong. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's time to move on because they're not going to go
Yeah.
after Eric Spoelstra. I mean, he's a
No, and,
staple.
and and they shouldn't. Oh yeah, and they shouldn't. And they should not. And they should not. But with all that, I am on board with Jimmy Butler no longer being a part of the Heat culture, right? And probably part of the Heat cultural change is that we no longer wait until the end of the season to get right. We no
Yeah.
longer wait to really get involved in this NBA game that we're a part of to the end of the season. And maybe a shift in that would be, to consider moving on from Jimmy Butler because I think he added that piece to the Heat culture because we've seen it happen. I mean, I want to say at least over the past 3 seasons where he really got dialed in at
Yeah.
the end. It's not effective anymore. No, it worked 2023, but that was a one time, once in a lifetime event. I don't think it's gonna ever happen again for them. So yes, I'm okay with that. Yeah, but again, the Heat culture can no longer move them unless they move pieces and get a roster that can help sustain the Heat culture that they love to, talk about and keep Eric Spoelstra's idea of the master class coaching, you know, that he so much garnered over his tenure. So yeah, no, I agree. Good one.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of superstars, right? I think Giannis is fed up with the Milwaukee Bucks. At the end of the season, he talked about potentially moving on, or what did he say? Go another route. I think the Milwaukee Bucks need to really take his word seriously because he's only been with the Bucks franchise, and he may be looking for something else, maybe
Yeah.
more more of a competitive roster because like I said in one of our podcasts, I felt like he was sitting on the bench because since he was injured and he looked at the complement of players that they currently have and he realized he had an aha moment and said, you know what, this just is not enough to compete in the East.
Right, right. No, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. I agree. And it may start with the coach. Now I know, Doc Rivers. This is his first half season because he didn't start off with the Milwaukee Bucks, but he ended with the Milwaukee Bucks for the 2024 season. Yeah, it's gonna take some revamping, reshifting, and probably a whole uproot of what the Milwaukee Bucks have going on with their roster right now to help meet the needs of and desires of Giannis Antetokounmpo because they may have one more season with him, maybe if they don't make changes. So, but his health has a lot to do with that as well. So he has to stay healthy because he can go to another franchise and be injured and still be in the same boat, still on the sideline looking crazy. So the New York Knicks, they're back on the map. I think that this particular squad will be the one that carries them into the next 3 seasons of basketball, right? Hit or miss, Eastern Conference Finals or no. I think that what they have and what they're building with Tom Thibodeau as their head coach, the Villanova three, you know, get Julius Randle back into the mix. I think that their future is bright. And so, one of the takeaways I've received so far from round one is that the New York Knicks will be top of the Eastern Conference for a couple of seasons moving forward. I really believe that they have
Oh
something
yeah.
special that they're building. And I think that the New York fans should be extremely excited for what they have in store for them. Yes.
Yes, and I totally agree with that, especially the Julius Randle part.
Yes.
Yeah, you got, I mean, golly, they're playing so good now. Throw him into the mix and they look even
Yes.
better, right? I think the Philadelphia 76ers have found their next superstar. I think Tyrese Maxey is now the first option for them, right? Because I think we all know Joel Embiid, as great as he is, you can't
Not the one.
you can't put all that pressure on him, especially with the injuries that he's faced for the last couple of
Yeah.
seasons off and on. His knees are inconsistent. You you just can't. You just can't. I think the Sixers can count on Kelly Oubre, Tyrese Maxey. Maybe they can get younger at the shooting guard spot because, Kyle Lowry, that's not it, right? And I also realized that in the playoffs, Tobias Harris is a no-show. And it's been like that for a couple of seasons. So yeah, I think Tyrese Maxey is your number one option. Joel Embiid is a close second. And you move on from there with the Philadelphia 76ers.
That's a good one. You know, another takeaway that I can garner from round one is that the Boston Celtics found a jewel in Derek White. I'm sorry. He is unsuspecting. And I think he found his home because I believe that Derek White plays a pivotal role in how successful the Boston Celtics will be as they continue to play in the playoffs. He showed that last season during the playoff run. He shows that continuously during the regular season when for some reason when the Jays don't have it together, you can always count on Derek White to at least bring the spark back into the season, back into the game. And I think that Brad Stevens and whoever he worked with to acquire him was a jewel. You know, like who was Derek White before the Boston Celtics? Let's just be honest.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no.
So he came to the Boston Celtics and made them almost big three, but you can't label him as such because he really didn't have a name for himself, right? But he's somebody that you can rely on, and he is somebody that will just find a way to make it happen when you need it to happen. And I think the Boston Celtics are really benefiting from his play and his uh, aggression, his skill, his ability to be everywhere they need for him to be, right? And I like the fact that he's a part of their roster. So yeah, take away Derek White is that dude.
Oh, for sure. It's funny though, when he was with the Spurs, a small market, yeah, like you said, I mean, did nobody really talk about him? And I
No.
was surprised that they paid him as much as they did. Maybe they saw his potential, but it says a lot about a player who can come from a small market into a huge basketball market and flourish, right?
Yeah. He's an amazing role player for the Boston Celtics, and one that I'm quite sure a couple of teams wish they had. So yeah.